because it used to be make great content. That's what Google told us.
Yeah, exactly.
But Google doesn't need that anymore because they have a machine that can build infinite content now. Now you want to publish content where people are doing. So it's a shift from reading to doing it. You want to get as close to task completion as you can before they go back. And Google calls that last longest click. Some of these sites were 300, 400, 500%
Really?
increases. Yes.
That much?
Yeah. Sell your own product. The original manufacturers are doing the best. People who sell other people's products, they're a notch down. But if you can white label your products or rebrand them so they seem like they're your own product, and that did pretty well. Right now, the number one spot to get the most traffic is still ranking number one in Google.
Hello, everybody. This is Odys Podcast. My name is Aneta Salkow, and today my guest is Cyrus Shepard, founder of Zippy. Hello, Cyrus.
Hey, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm very excited for today's topic because we're going to talk about your recent studies. You just published research analyzing over 400 sites that won or lost traffic from Google over the past 12 months. Before getting into your findings, can you tell us how you picked those sites?
Yeah, so actually I was piggybacking off the research of Lily Ray, who is a SEO and big name in the SEO industry. And she published an analysis last year of winning and losing sites using Systrix data. So I used her same data set, and then I validated by rerunning all the traffic numbers and validating that the winners continued to win and the losers continued to lose. And I had to take out a few outliers, but that's how we did it.
How do you define a winner and how do you define a loser?
Yeah, so these were sites that have either lost significant traffic over the last 12 months or sites that have gained significant traffic over the last 12 months. And it's interesting because the narrative is that everybody's losing traffic, and that's just not true. Most sites are losing traffic, but there are a significant number of sites that are actually winning and gaining with Google's algorithm. So we wanted to include those in the data set to see what the differences are.
And significant amount of traffic is like what percentage?
Oh, some of these sites were 300, 400, 500%.
Really?
Increases, yes.
That much?
Yeah, and sites that were 10, 15 years old, increasing a lot. And some of the losers were down a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So Google has clearly shifted what it rewards, right? You say it moved beyond good content to rewarding what AI cannot replicate.
Yes.
At like high level, what does the new Google actually want from websites this year?
Yeah, well, I think you said it really well, that things that AI can't replicate, because it used to be make great content. That's what Google told us.
Yeah, exactly.
But Google doesn't need that anymore because they have a machine that can build infinite content now. Gemini, you just type in a search and their AI can produce any article, and it's great. So they don't need content. But what they need personal perspectives, opinions, point of views. They also need things that are proprietary. So like things that shops that sell something or offer a service or a community, something that the AI doesn't have. So the number one factors were stores that sold something or had some sort of proprietary data. So that's what they're looking for. Just like you said, things that AI cannot replicate.
How strongly have you seen it related to like the author recognition or authorship authority?
That's an interesting question and something we've tried to measure a lot over the years. So when I worked as a Google quality rater, I might be jumping ahead here, but when I worked as a Google quality rater, we maybe looked at who the author was, but more importantly, we looked at the site and the site authorship. And I think that's more important than the actual authorship itself. So there's plenty of evidence that Google looks at authors, but really site reputation is probably, I'm guessing, more important.
And that gap between winners and losers is just getting bigger. Can you advise sites that are losing right now? What do they have to do? What kind of mindset shift do they have to take in order to get out of that downward spiral?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So I think the shift that we want to have publishers take is, in the old publishing model, you publish content people were reading.
Yes.
Now you want to publish content where people are doing. So it's a shift from reading to doing. It's this idea of task completion. So we want people to get closer to their final goal, spend more time on the site, draw them further down into the funnel. So maybe if you have, I analyzed a site that was a math tutoring site. So instead of just tutoring, having math problems, there was interactive tools where kids or anybody could play and actually do the math. And that site it was a very ugly site, but it's skyrocketing in traffic because it allows people to do something. Maybe you have a download that you sell, like a meal planner guide, or you're just getting people closer to their final goal, task completion, we call it. And instead of just reading, we're doing. And that's the big mind shift, finding those things that people can do.
Yes, exactly. That was my next question about the number one feature that you found was offering a product or service. Why do you think the pure affiliate or content informational sites lost positions?
Yeah. So what we see with the affiliate sites is we see them going down. NerdWallet was a big one that dominated traffic for years.
Yeah.
But people couldn't complete the process of getting a credit card. They had to go to another site to get the credit card. Yeah. So now sites like that have to do something different. They can have comparison tools. With AI, you can build a lot of cool tools and put them on your website now. Showing evidence, showing some of the data, going deeper into the funnel. You maybe still can't get all the way, but if you can go further, it's going to help you. So getting them closer to that final decision before they actually make that purchase is going to help.
Can you give us a couple of examples maybe from like affiliate sites or informational sites that successfully were able to offer services or something valuable like that?
Yeah, so sometimes with the affiliate sites, it's not so much to offer service, but just depth of evidence. I have a couple examples in my talk today. One is a running shoe site, and they dissect the heck out of the running shoe. They take it apart bit by bit, they measure it, and the entire page, it's thousands of words of evidence, how much the shoe weighs, what's it's made of, things like that. And they videotape everything, they record everything, and it's all on the page. So it's evidence. It's evidence that the AI doesn't have. You're supplying AI with your information, and that's how you get cited. Another site sells red light therapy devices, and it has a similar testing methodology where everything's high quality photographs, all the testing specs, they tear everything apart. Those sites are doing really well. The types of affiliate sites that aren't doing well are just like, here are the top 5 masks, and they list them out because again, AI can do that, but AI can't do the testing and show the evidence. So if you're an affiliate site, I think the number one thing you can do is start showing the evidence, your methodology, your testing, your reasons why, and have an opinion. This is why I think this is the number one X, because I used it and I had a great experience with it. Here's some pictures of me with it. And this is a very deep experience.
Okay. And in your study, another important feature was task completion.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit? What site owners can do to kind of take advantage of that feature?
Yeah, so this is getting a little in the weeds, but one of the things Google looks at is how long a person stays on a site compared to other sites, and if they go back to the search results to click on something else or finish their searches. The credit card example we were talking about. Are they going to go back to Google and search for their credit card after they read your site about which is number one, or are they going to apply on your site? So you want to get as close to task completion as you can before they go back. And Google calls that last longest click. When they click on a site, they stay a long time and they're able to complete that task. Again, you can't always get all the way there, but the further along you can get, the better you're going to be.
Okay. And very strong correlation. Winners had 93% of time proprietary assets.
Proprietary assets, yeah.
Yeah. What counts as a strong proprietary asset today?
So proprietary assets are actually easy. They're not very hard. But in the old model, maybe you ran an affiliate site and you had stock images. you use recycled information. Today, you'd want to use original photography. You want to use original data. The study that we're talking about is proprietary information because I went out there and I did research. I gathered the data using lots of tools. We created specialized infographics by a human, not an AI, but I think either's fine. So that's very easy to do. If you don't have anything else, you can always do research and publish it and create something that no one else has. And then you have something that's proprietary. It's another type of proprietary information is your perspective, your opinion. Nobody in the world has your opinions. And if you explain how you got that opinion, I went hiking in these beautiful mountains. I use these trekking poles and these crampons on my feet. And that's why I think you should do this. That is a personal perspective that Google can't get with AI. So that's proprietary too. So something that comes from you that's original, and it's actually not that hard to do. You just have to shift your mindset a little bit.
Would user-generated content be a type of proprietary asset?
Yes, and interestingly, there's indications that Google has a lot of algorithms that judge if user-generated content is good or if it's not too good. The quality of the comments, the quality of the post. So if you can get your users to generate really good user-generated content, one of the sites in the data set is a wiki for Minecraft. And users, thousands of users are just creating these Wikipedia-style pages about Minecraft, and they're all experts. It's all really good content, and that site is just taking off. So good user-generated content, better than bad user-generated content.
And the topical focus finding was very interesting because initially you didn't find the correlation, but when you tightened the set, you saw a pattern. And you kind of mentioned that example with the shoes where they got very nitty-gritty. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I don't want to call anybody out, but there's a famous example in the SEO world a couple of years ago with HubSpot. HubSpot, very successful marketing platform, great SEO team. And they did what was successful for the time, which is they published content about their CRM, but also anything in marketing. And they could rank so well because they had such high domain authority. But then Google tightened it, tightened the vice a little bit. And now that traffic just doesn't rank anymore. And we've seen that with a lot of sites. So we're advising sites to what we say niche down, tighten your niche to very tight topical focus, which you can show authority in, which you can show research and personal experience in, and that's going to do a little bit better. These broad sites that just rank for everything, there's very few examples. Wikipedia, Reddit, but unless you're one of those two, you need to tighten your topical focus and be a very specific expert on something.
How tight is too tight?
I don't think you can get too tight.
Really?
But you can expand a little bit, but you want to be sure you can back it up with research and data and all that.
But a HubSpot example that you mentioned is very interesting because they reportedly lost 80% of their traffic between 2024 and 2025, but their revenue grew.
Yes, and like I said, the HubSpot is doing excellent SEO. They have always done excellent SEO, but it didn't affect their bottom line. So I think that's something that we can learn from. That the metrics we need to be paying attention to are conversions and revenue, and some of that content maybe wasn't necessary in the first place.
Okay. Brand. You had some interesting findings of brand where actually the winners had much bigger share of the branded keywords versus the losers. For someone who's running a site and they have almost zero branded search, what does that actually mean? Is it like a game over for them, or can they fix that?
It's what. Like everything else we discuss here, that Google has hundreds of ranking factors. There's never any one death lever. So you can have no brand, but if you do everything else well, you can still succeed. But it does shift your thinking a little bit. Like one thing that we found in studies is that sites with lots of branded anchor text tend to do very well.
Oh, interesting.
So in the old model, you might try to get your keywords ranking. Like I want to rank for best running shoes, so I'm going to build some links with best running shoes in the anchor text. Now you might say, well, I'm going to build those anchor texts with my brand name. For me, that'd be Zippy or Cyrus Shepard or something like that. And we find a pretty significant correlation with that kind of thing. So. Wow. making your marketing about you instead of your keywords is something we can do. Building a brand is tough,
Yeah.
but small little shifts, we can start to move the needle.
Yes, that's pretty simple
Yeah.
step to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And you said also that sites with more aggressive SEO optimization and low branded visibility and the model, like to business model to back it up, lost harder than other sites. How many of such sites, or what's the percentage of?
I don't know. I don't know the percentage or how many sites, but this is something we saw starting with the helpful content update in 2023. And people don't talk about that anymore. But the helpful content update was folded into the core algorithm, and they have been updating that every single month into their site quality scores. So we're in the middle of a quality update right now. And when the helpful content update first came out, we saw sites that were aggressive with their SEO. They had aggressive title tags, aggressive internal linking, aggressive dates. They were updating the dates on their pages. Those sites did the worst, and they just dropped. Since then, Google has loosened up a little bit, but I think we have to be a little bit more boring with our SEO and write, straightforward titles. We don't need to overlink it internally, because the people who are winning are the people who aren't doing a lot of SEO naturally. They're just regular people writing blogs and building sites without overthinking it. So it's hard to untrain us, but that's what we need to do.
Were there some factors that you thought will definitely correlate, but in your study actually didn't show up?
The brand one was one that I thought would be stronger. It wasn't as strong as I thought. And I think that's because Google already baked it in a couple years ago. And we were just looking at the last 12 months of data. So the interesting thing, there are some big brands out there, big publishers like Good Housekeeping, which is a big brand in the United States and globally, just dropping. Brand isn't helping them anymore because they're just publishing content. And so there's a lot of publishers that are just preparing for no Google traffic. And it's tough.
Yeah. What would be your advice for like a typical Odys podcast listener who are many affiliate marketers, agency owners, operators in tough verticals? What are like the highest leverage moves that they can take now?
I think the most interesting thing for me is the shift, we've already talked about it, is the shift towards evidence. Because this applies both to AI and Google. They're looking for websites that they can cite, that they can ground their AI answers off of. So whatever you're writing about, whatever content you're publishing, we need to get better at showing the evidence behind it. We can't just publish the content and make recommendations. We have to show why. And that's so much more important now with AI and Google. So I think that's a first step in learning how to create content. It's not just keywords, it's the why behind it.
And now AI overviews are correlated with almost like 60% reduction in click-through rates for top ranking sites. You published a piece on 17 content types that survive Google's zero clicks. Which of those 17 are you personally most confident in?
The number one is sites that sell something. So if you offer a product or service, you are the most safe. But even there, we're seeing slight decreases in traffic. But I have clients who are manufacturers who make and sell their own product. They don't even know that AI is happening because they're getting such steady traffic. It hasn't dropped at all. They don't have to worry about it. After that, branded search, something like 50% of all Google traffic is branded. And these are sites looking for Facebook, Reddit, all the big brands. So if you have a large brand presence, that's great. Personally, if you can own your audience, I'm trying to grow my email list right now. This podcast with YouTube viewers, building your owned audience is so important because we have to really rely on other distribution channels, and then bring them in, through Google when they search for you, things like that. So owned audiences, selling things, having original research. Those are all the safest areas.
Is there any differentiation within the selling sites per what they are selling?
So what we are seeing is the original manufacturers are doing the best. People who sell other people's products, they're a notch down.
Okay.
But if you can white label your products or rebrand them so they seem like they're your own product, that's something I've seen people do. I had a client in the vaping space
Okay.
that they didn't make the vapes, but they repackaged them and rebranded them their own, and that did pretty well.
Oh.
So and they used to be an affiliate. So then they switched to selling, and that has helped them out some.
Oh, that's a great way to pivot for affiliate site.
Yeah. Sell your own product, drop shipping. There's ways you can do it, but you want to brand it as your own product if you can.
And for the next 12 months, what categories of the websites you think will be most successful, or do you expect also like any changes with the study you had?
So that's an interesting question. Things are changing. We know what works now.
Yeah.
It's hard to say what's going to work in 12 months because things are changing so fast. Google just announced a bunch of updates to how AI works. It's going to be much more agentic. But I think the reality is that it won't change as much as Google is promising. Because I watch my mother search, for recipes and things like that. And it's the same experience. She wants to find that one site that has that thing. And I think people are changing behavior takes a while. So I think things are going to be pretty stable for another year or two. But what I think the most successful sites are going to be the ones we talked about, sites that sell their own products. But the sleepers are going to be those affiliate sites that have lots and lots of evidence that aren't doing a lot of SEO, but they're creating the content that the AI and the search engines really want. Yeah.
And what's your advice of actually getting to the AI answers?
So that's a really interesting question. I just did this big research piece on AI citation ranking factors. And I mean, the first 2 or 3 ranking factors, they're not really ranking factors, but the first 2 or 3 all correlate with ranking high in Google. And we know that AI citations get some clicks. Getting cited in the AI answer itself gets some clicks. But right now, the number 1 spot to get the most traffic is still ranking number 1 in Google. And that correlates with AI answer. So for most people, I don't think we should change our strategy. Just try to rank number 1, try to rank for related queries, and you're gonna capture a lot to AI answer demand.
Like organically.
Yeah. So just continue to do that very well, and you're probably going to be okay. If you have the bandwidth, yes, then we're going to go after those long tails. We're going to try to grab as many AI citations as we can. But for now, just try to maintain or reach for that number 1 spot.
And any final advice to our listeners?
Yeah. Scale back your SEO a little bit. Act like you don't know any SEO at all. And that might help a little bit.
And sell something.
Yeah.
Don't produce just content.
Yeah.
The good content, quality content is no longer enough.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cyrus, for this conversation.
Thank you.
And if you enjoyed it, please follow Cyrus on LinkedIn. Feel free to contact him.
And sign up for my newsletter, Zippy Signal.
Yeah, exactly, because you just start building it, right? And subscribe and like our podcast.